Hey guys, Will King here from Cotton Homes, and today I want to talk to you about emergency preparedness, how to have an action plan at your house, an emergency plan for your family, and some of the things that you can have at your house that are going to help in the event of a natural disaster, an emergency, whatever it is that might happen. You might know that my background was in the fire service, so I spent 10 years as a professional firefighter, paramedic. I was on a heavy rescue team. I got to go to a lot of different responses, whether they were big fires, small fires, natural disasters, tornadoes specifically, even just bad thunderstorms that came through and caused a lot of damage. And so when I started building houses, it really made me think about how to prepare for this, building a resilient home, having an action plan that I could share with my homeowners that I'm building for, and especially my own family. So I want to talk through a few of those things today. I think to start with, I want to talk about fire safety for a minute in your house. People often don't put the thought into fire safety like they should, and there's a couple of things that you and your family need to talk about and have a plan together. To start with, in the event of a fire, you need to have a meeting spot. Everybody needs to know to get out of the house. They need to have a safe place to go. Maybe it's an oak tree in your front yard or a swing set out back. I don't know. Find a meeting spot where everybody in your family knows to go to immediately in the event of a fire. That way everybody knows they're accounted for, and it cuts down on chaos and maybe forgetting that somebody's inside or not knowing where they went when they came out. The other is teach your kids and your family to shut the doors. If they're in their bedroom at night, leave their door closed. If you come out of the house in the event of a fire, definitely shut the door. It's amazing the difference when you cut off the oxygen supply to a fire, how much the spread of that fire is limited. It makes a huge difference, and it's just safer. I've been in houses that have burnt, and whole bedrooms have been salvageable, or at least livable at that moment because they had the door shut. I can't reiterate that enough. That makes such a big difference in the overall safety when it comes to fire. Also, smoke detectors. Most new homes all have them. There's so many homes that still exist that don't have working smoke detectors. And even if you have a new house, make sure every time the time changes, you change those batteries in your smoke detectors. Make sure they're online. And even if you have a monitored service, maybe ask them to come test them. That would be a great idea to just make sure they work. So moving on from fire for a second, let's talk about weather, severe weather. Here in the South, we have a lot of severe thunderstorms. We have a lot of tornadoes that blow through. We have more and more severe winter events that are happening. There's a lot of things about that you need to take into consideration. But for one, make sure you do things to prepare for storms. When you know they're coming in, you're going to do things like make sure your phones are charged. Make sure that your car has a full tank of gas in it. If you know that it's severe thunderstorms coming through or tornado risk, definitely make sure you know where you're going to go in your house in the event of a tornado warning. Maybe it's a safe room, maybe it's your basement, or maybe it's just the most center section of your house, a bathroom perhaps. Just make sure your family all knows where that spot is, and that you know where to go in the event of that warning that goes off. One thing I like to do is make sure my kids have bicycle helmets available. In the event of a tornado warning, my kids are going to have their bicycle helmets on. They're even going to have a life jacket. I've got life jackets off the boat just to protect their core in the event of flying debris. You could take that further. You could do things like safety glasses. It goes on and on, but make sure that you have something in place for that. Make sure you have flashlights that are scattered throughout your house. Make sure you have them in your safe spot. In the event of a power outage, you can see to get where you're going. It's just very important that you have a plan in the event of a high wind event of what your family's going to do. All right, so let's talk for a second too about things that you can do around your house to prepare. One of the biggest things that sticks out to me is having a generator. It might be a whole home generator. It might just be a portable generator. But having some source of that is a big step in being prepared for any natural disaster that could happen. Generators come in all shapes and sizes, of course, and they're fueled by many different fuel sources. One of my favorite ones, though, is propane because it's very easy to store for a long time. You don't have to worry about regular unleaded gas or diesel fuel going bad. Propane can be stored for a long, long time, and it never causes a problem while it's sitting there on standby. It also burns very clean. You can have portable tanks. You could have a whole house tank sitting outside, or even an underground tank. And generators are big, and of course you're going to want to work with your local propane supplier to size it. But if you have a whole home generator, of course your whole house is going to be backed up. But if you have a portable generator, a smaller one, you can at least have extension cords coming off of that to keep things like your refrigerator running so that you don't lose your food. And also too, remember, in the event of a power failure, if you have propane appliances like a fireplace, it needs zero electricity to turn on. And that's a big deal when you talk about severely cold weather and power outages. Being able to heat your house, that's critical. So I'll always try to plan a house. Regardless of the entire system, I love to have at least one heat source of gas in a house, and it's really makes a difference in emergencies being able to use that. All right, if you have a family, I think one of the most critical things you can do is to teach your little kids the address. If they're going to, and teach them how to call 911, because if they call 911, they need to be able to tell them the address. So as soon as they can start talking, as soon as they can start participating in these conversations, maybe it's 3 or 4 years old, teach them their home address. Teach them how to call 911. Teach them your phone number, and maybe quiz them or make little notes for them to where they can get that in their head, so that in the event, maybe it's a medical emergency and mom or dad goes down, that kid knows how to take a phone and call 911. That's such a big step in just overall safety, again, of your home and your family, is being able to teach your kids those things. So one more thing on the storm preparedness is to make sure that your family has a weather alert radio. We have one in our bedroom, and it has a built-in battery. Of course, it plugs into the wall. But in the event of a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning, or any other alerts that need to be broadcasted, it's going to wake us up. And that's you can't just depend on your cell phone. I really think that everybody should have a weather alert radio somewhere in their house. And also, part of your preparedness for a severe weather event is to make sure that you have on, blue jeans, a pair of closed-toe shoes, maybe it's tennis shoes, maybe it's boots. So that way, if something does happen to your house, if a tornado comes through or severe thunderstorms and a tree falls, whatever it might be, you don't want to be caught in your pajamas and your slippers if you have to work to get your family out or work to get outside your house. So I would just encourage you to make sure you have on adequate work clothes in the event of an emergency like that. I think for a second we should talk about things around the outside of your house too. So luckily we live in an area here in the South where we don't see a lot of wildland fires. Obviously we see those all across the country every year, and they're devastating. That doesn't mean that it can't happen though where we live. So I would encourage you, part of your home maintenance plan, make sure things like your shrubs are cut back, any dead vegetation's cut back. Make sure the leaves off your roof, off the valleys, make sure all that stays clean. Anything that would be easily ignitable, you want to try to eliminate that or minimize that from around your house. And it may not even be a wildland fire that happens. It could be your neighbor's house that catches on fire. And I've seen that happen to where one neighbor or one house catches another house on fire because there's so many combustibles between the two. I've seen things like just trash, debris, old vehicles. I've seen tall grass cause it. I've seen several things. So just pay attention to what's outside your house. And if you can help minimize that, it's never a bad idea. All right, so I hope today's video was helpful. Maybe it answered some questions or concerns that you had of how to make your family more prepared. As always, just follow along here on my channel for more videos, and we'll talk to you soon.